Hi guys, welcome back to another podcast. Now, last podcast के end में we understood that his company deals with landing page, website creation, anything under web and web domain. He is master of that. So in today's podcast, we'll be discussing basic essentials which you should know to make a career in web development, or as I call it, ABC of web development career. So we already know Jayesh. He is lot of roles I can say. He's a trainer, he's an entrepreneur, he has his company, lot of things. So I'll cut the thing off. नीचे description में उसके बारे में पूरा राम कहानी लिखा है जिसको interest है can connect. But currently coming back, Jayesh, web development. Let us understand layman's way of understanding or a new student. Two great student says web development मतलब HTML आता है, CSS आता है, कुछ नए बच्चे हैं तो JS आता है, web development हो गया. Where we both understand that's not web development. Yeah. There may be A and B of web development, but definitely not the entire stuff. So from here, I want you to explain all the students out there proper web development के लिए what stacks, how to, what is your personal recommendation, and what is the best way to do that.
Yeah. So first of all, a great point, a thing which you pointed out, people talking about HTML आ गया, JS and CSS and
then
I'll give you an analogy of this. So you created your headphones, your earpod, okay, that is the receiving end, but you forgot to create a mobile.
Okay.
तो वो हेडफोन लेके करेगा क्या? गाना तो कहीं से आने वाला है. This means web is not just the client side, you also have to think about the server side. So there are of course two types in it. People also mostly focus on careers which are based on client side development.
Okay.
Where it could be making your web pages itself, the web application which is the front end application part of it.
Okay.
Or you can be getting into mobile app development which is based on an application which is conversing with a server.
Okay.
Okay. But that is not the entire story. And even if you decide to go in just that, you are nothing if you have not understood how the server side works.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't know what sort of food is going to come to your plate, you wouldn't know whether to use your bare hands to eat it or should you keep knife and spoon ready with it.
Okay.
Right? You should know how to consume it. But to know what is to be consumed and what has to be sent back, okay, you should understand how the other side works. Right?
Definitely.
So it's like that. So when you're starting up with web development, of course, first essential thing is you first understand how HTML works. Okay. I'd say start with learning XML.
Okay.
Okay.
That's new.
Start learning XML. It's a one-day thing. Just invest 2 hours of your life to XML. That's it. You don't need to dig deeper into that. Understand how it is structured and become comfortable with it. That is the baseline of an HTML document.
Okay.
An HTML was a format created so that we could have a uniformity of data transport. This was done basically to facilitate scientists in the US, especially the ones who were working in the CERN lab, the guys who were running the Hadar, Hadron Collider, and of course the US military also used it. It was very user friendly and convenient for maintaining
sharing
information sharing and maintaining uniformity of information interchange. And in early days, where computer systems were networked, for a company or let's say for the police department, not here but in other countries, in the early, in the 60s and 70s. That time, the greatest challenge was whenever one system had to be merged into a different network or a different system, the entire software had to be broken down, read into, read the entire data and everything. That's where the uniformity was created. Certain bodies were formed to ensure that there is a uniform way of exchanging information. A result of one of these collations was XML.
Okay.
And that's how your HTML came into being. We created a software which is capable of reading those particular tags
and
represent it in a UI and can be done in every operating system in different format. So that became your web browser. Okay, that's what it's and most of you kids who are watching this, your parents, lucky people who have witnessed the first two web browsers like Internet Explorer. Believe it or not, it was a hero of its time.
Agree.
Okay, because before Internet Explorer, you had to pay for a web browser. Netscape was payable. Later on, it became free, and we had Java applets and everything. That was fun time of its
Hot
own.
Java, the browser.
Just if you guys ever get into a time machine, like go into the early 90s, drop into a cyber cafe, enjoy the web for a few hours, and then come back. You'd love it. So those fun days are gone, by the way.
हाँ, 1 घंटे का 20 रुपया,
20 रुपये।
20 रुपये का 1 घंटा वेब ब्राउजर, वो भी ऐसे कैबिन वाले आते थे, तुम क्या कर रहे हो किसी को दिखेगा नहीं, तुम्हारा प्राइवेसी है,
Yes,
सिर्फ आवाज बाहर नहीं आना चाहिए।
and Java applet chat था Yahoo का. The first thing you would write in
Yahoo
was
Messenger.
ASL.
ASL, everybody, that was a modern old times Tinder going.
Yeah, old time Tinder था वो.
I
And you could do many fun things on it. And trust me, guys, if you actually get to see some videos of these old time tools and web-based UIs, you would actually be surprised what was achieved in the limited technology that was available back then. And which actually is pointing towards that a lot can be done with just little. So first try to understand what this little is. So begin with understanding HTML, CSS, and then get into JavaScript.
Okay.
JavaScript is a scripting language. It is again essentially C running on C. It's also built using C, okay, just like Python. But it is not that loosely typed as Python. It is also having its own scope declarations and everything, and it's actually fantastic if you learn it right.
It is pretty strong. Can definitely do a lot.
JavaScript is a beauty. It's one of my personal favorites now in terms of scripting language. It's my personal favorite because you can do a lot with it, a lot. So main thing is you can break it down into 3 parts. You can learn the JavaScript basics part. That is, first of all, you have to learn the constraints and limitations of it, understanding the syntaxes and all.
Basic reading, writing, and that.
Yeah, arrays and stuff like that. Next, you learn the DOM part of it. DOM is document object model, where you can directly manipulate your HTML document through JavaScript. Because the HTML document is represented by an JavaScript object in your web browser. That is already done for you, you just have to play with it. And that is actually where one of our data structure algorithms comes into play, the narrative. If you observe it clearly, you will understand how it does. I will not get into that now. Yeah. Next is you get into the BOM model.
Okay.
Which is browser object model.
Okay. This is very important. A lot of people leave this up.
Yeah. So browser object model is basically something going to help you if you build hybrid apps using Cordova or similar platforms or Electron.js or something like that,
Okay.
which actually allows you to access features of the browser that are giving you access to the native features of your device.
Okay.
A device can be your desktop, laptop, or your tab or a mobile phone also, or any new device that comes in tomorrow. Maybe AR and VR glasses also.
Okay.
Native functions, one of the simplest native function is accessing the location, the GPS location.
Oh.
That is happening through BOM, that is browser object model.
Right. Instagram also uses it most of the time. Your
Yes.
location and how you
Yes.
Fine.
So BOM is very practical. Once you learn those, move on to now the server side.
Okay.
First, if you are good in any other language, let's say if you are good in a compiler language, it also has a web-based backend. You can try learning the HTTP backend with that, okay? Server-side programming with that. Or you can pick one of these server-side scripting languages. You can try JavaScript, or you can even use Python
Okay.
or PHP. If you have learned none of these, you have anyways learned JavaScript, you can try learning JavaScript, Node.js, okay? Or if you feel that you're getting confused between the front-end JavaScript and the back-end JavaScript, then you can keep both separate. You can focus on learning PHP as your back-end language, as a scripting language.
Okay.
And I'm not asking you to dig deeper. Just do the basic stuff of handling get and post queries.
Okay. Using PHP.
PHP, run an Apache server, that's right. And you can download XAMPP. And you also have other,
WAMP and
WAMP
a lot of things.
Many things that you can use those options. If you have an Ubuntu installation, it already has Apache installed in it. Or you can just do a apt get install, that's it. It works for you. So you can use ideally one of these things and try out doing the simple interfacing from front end to back end. Do the simple stuff as a beginner. Understand how form data is posted, how you can get it back, how a server-side session is maintained.
Session management.
Session management. And session management is a very misunderstood concept. Now, I have worked with interns before. I have even recently given a task to a couple of interns, and we did a nice test of them. With the affiliated university that I was working with, that we were working with actually. So one of the mistakes that most of those guys did, they did a wonderful job with the projects by the way. But one of the biggest mistakes those guys did was taking sessions in a completely wrong direction.
Oh.
They were downloading different types of libraries just to handle a small session. Boss, your session management is already done by your browser and your server. You just have to take over that. The point is, people fail to understand what a session is, and they start creating their own universe around it. So वो इतना सा चीज था, you had to plow the field. खेत के लिए तुमको खेत में plowing करना था, and you bought a Ferrari to do that instead of taking a tractor. Okay, that is what's going on over there. So understand that concept. Understand session management. It's very simple. You shouldn't be spending more than 1 hour to learn session.
Okay.
So that is how I'm just asking you to scratch the surface. I'm not asking you to go too deep into it because you're a beginner.
Okay.
Once you have learned that, test yourself out with a web server somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. You guys can buy recharges and buy expensive phones for yourself, so you can easily buy a 1 month or 6 month or 1 year hosting for yourself. Buy a cPanel hosting from somewhere. Try to host it there. Okay, host your application there, and you can try to run it. And you will stumble upon many problems, but this is your learning curve. That is how you actually learn the real stuff, not just by looking at tutorials. And what happens is, oftenly people skip the reading part from the actual source. And let's say you are learning PHP, you forget about reading the documentation provided by the creators of the language. You go to different sources. 10 sources will give you halfway information. Those are fine for reference. If you've forgotten something, you wanted to have a quick view, you went to some other source, that's fine. But when you're learning, try to read it. And even if you're watching a YouTube video to learn a concept, that video should not be more than 3 minutes long. Because if it's a longer video, for more than 3 minutes long video, of course it's for monetization. Okay? And they're talking bullshit because you're supposed to, only stick to small concepts.
So basically, you see the concept, implement, and then only understand.
Yes.
Don't just keep watching videos.
And worst part is there are students who get into the habit of watching the video and hitting skip. So, as it is, you're not reading. You've got the ease of watching a video. Why skip it?
Okay.
Sit through it, learn through it, have patience, build it, and build. Now, this is the starting point.
Okay.
Now, the main point is when you mentioned about stack. The stacks way of learning, personally, I believe is a pandemic on its own, because that restricts you from learning, all that you're capable of doing. Learn individual components that a stack can be made up of. I already told you the individual front-end components. Okay. Now, to ease your front-end development, that is your front-end web page UI development, you can try out some front-end frameworks such as React, AngularJS, Vue.js, but you should know what you're doing first. Okay. So first, make sure you learn JavaScript properly. Try out maybe jQuery if you wish, and then get into these front-end development frameworks. And when you're learning these frameworks, remember, if you have to add capabilities to it, and you have to install third-party plugins or third-party libraries into it, this means that framework has failed its job. The only third-party libraries you should be using should be for maybe connecting to a remote server, like use Axios or any the Get ones which are used for performing Ajax calls, okay, or generating PDF documents, stuff which are out of the UI framework. But managing the UI, maintaining context and session should be done by the framework itself. That is an ideal framework to work with. Personally, if you ask me, I would suggest you to go with Angular or Vue if you're learning front-end framework. You learn that easily, implement that quickly, then you can try your hands out in other frameworks. You will learn those quicker, much quicker than you can even learn HTMX much quicker. But remember, these are frameworks designed to assist you. They are not an answer to everything. They are just tools which you can use in places to speed up your development. Now this part is done, you have to think about your middleware backend. Now I use this term called middleware backend. Middleware backend is something which is going to process your request coming from your front end.
Okay.
You get post, put, delete, patch requests which are coming from your front end. It could be an AJAX call or could be a simple query sent to your browser. Okay, so API call or a browser query. It should be handled. That handling part is done by your middleware backend, which is either built on Node.js using Express or PHP in Apache, okay, or Python Django or the other one which we use in Python. Either of these, okay. Then you have your backend database. Now, database selection is where people make mistakes. People just Google search, which is the popular one, which are more jobs, and the manipulated search engine that Google is or any other search engine is, they give you paid results basically. So the topmost one who has done their SEO right, they come on top, and most clicked upon are organically shown to you. Doesn't mean that it is right.
Okay.
So people fall for Mern stack, Pern stack. I heard about Stone stack recently. I don't know what most stacks people are going to come from.
Basically, your idea is to, like you go, rather than following only a framework, understand every technology, their use, their limitation, and you have an entire belt of things ready.
Yes.
So that if A doesn't work, you can put another block B which is capable of doing that and still work. Rather than limiting ourselves in only one stack, beyond that which you cannot do anything.
And learn one SQL database and one NoSQL database.
That's a good thing.
If you decide not to learn databases, at least learn SQL then.
Agree.
But don't skip on SQL. Okay. And of course, not everyone can afford to have a paid software. So you can try MySQL or MariaDB, which is free for students.
My PHP admin also.
My PHP admin does. My PHP admin is basically a tool created in PHP that allows you to connect to your MySQL or MariaDB.
Okay.
So remember, if you're using XAMPP has an issue that MariaDB corruption happens most of the time. It happens, it fails. So that you can use the community edition of MySQL. Okay, which is free of cost. Community edition can be used just like Maria, and it's much more stable. You can use MySQL Workbench or PHP MyAdmin. Learn to use it, learn to manipulate, do basic crude queries, learn how to create views and store procedures in it. Okay, understand joins, how they work, which is your basic stuff. Okay, NoSQL database, you can pick anyone. You can pick Mongo or you can pick any other so-called big data databases. Okay, that's fine. But remember, the applicability of these databases is a choice to be made by you when you're creating a project. When you're creating something so humongous that it has to be served to many users, remember you will have to rely on SQL. Relationship mapping is the base of that. Where there is no relationship mapping required, so taking the input and processing it, making it ready for your relational database, you can use a non-relational database.
Okay.
So what is something which I learned through experience, working with some people, some colleagues, and some joint projects which I've done. People often use that as a front gate to process the information coming in. Okay. So they use the big data databases or the NoSQL databases as their filtration systems. And finally the data is to go in a SQL database only.
Get a raw data, filter it out and then save it.
So what you think is happening on your phone is having a NoSQL database in it.
Perfect.
Most of your messaging apps do that. And they synchronize with something which is a relational database sitting on some server.
Exactly.
And it becomes much easier for it. So right after that, you should then jump into understanding how API calls work, focusing on it, how API testing works. I mean, any type of programming language, you need to understand how to test your code. Not that you need to get into the testing career always. I'm speaking this just for developers. Those who are interested in testing, of course, please pursue your path. But developers, you need to understand little bits of testing. Before the tester comes back with you hitting you with stones, you can test out things yourself. So understand a little bit about unit tests, etc. Okay, or preliminary quality assurance checks which you can perform.
Better the code.
And create simple applications at the beginning. Simple as you create a submit form and data collection tool, or create a nice blog page, one single page. Okay, where everybody is able to add a comment over there. You can add likes and stars and everything, and your web page is capable of showing everything. This sounds very simple and small. Try to build it. then you'll understand what are the small things you missed out. One example, to-do app, and I did have an argument with one of a fellow coordinators who said, "Sir, why are you doing the simple to-do app? Make something much bigger." I said, "Boss, try to build one yourself without using a clone." Yes, one more thing. Avoid cloning stuff from Git.
And also AI.
On AI. Yes, AI. Look, guys, you are not Tony Stark, and that is not Jarvis. Okay? You are either using Google Bard or Copilot or ChatGPT or Gemini or, Brain is also one more thing.
Because the web development is heavily now under AI, because every second workshop which I hear create web pages in minutes using AI prompt engine.
Yeah, the problem is they have not worked with real clients.
I agree.
You see, me and a few buddies, we get together every year and we go for a nice beach vacation and we just relax and we talk about what are the trends happening. So one of these discussions, just 3-4 years ago, it ran just before COVID, we ran into the discussion about AI. And they're making AI engines for developing sites, and I had invested in one, by the way. that I was refunded later because that project failed. The reason is because it cannot keep up with the changing requirements of a client. A human fails, a team of humans fails to capture requirements as per the client. The client fails to describe the requirements. Unless and until you have an AI asking the other AI to build a website, a perfect site cannot come out. At least not now. Maybe a decade later this is possible, or maybe if we achieve the quantum leap and somebody builds something which is that capable, maybe. But currently we are not there yet. Otherwise, you would have seen every Tom, Dick and Harry building a new website on the fly like this.
And this has happened to a lot of students who argue with it, or all of very new people who are getting into web development would say by now, "Nahin, I have used AI and built." So you understand what they are building: welcome page, hello page, about me page. That's not the website. Those are just shared pages. When you talk about a website or a domain, that is much complex than that. Even given a normal requirement, you try this thing right now if you're sitting. If you want to create a website for yourself, what all you will require? Spend 2 minutes, get the requirement on a piece of paper, and then sit another entire day thinking about what you need. The requirements would change. AI can only act to what you say. And what you say is greatly limited to what you understand.
So I'll give these 3 challenges to test out.
Okay.
Number 1 is Tesla's website. Take an example of Tesla's website. Try to build that without using AI tool.
Okay.
You can use maybe your IDE. Now I use Bootstrap Studio.
Okay.
To be frank, it's a beautiful tool, by the way. They have not paid me to promote it, but yeah, this is it's actually that is actually a good tool. It helps you to at least reduce your coding task. So code snippets are ready. You can directly drag and drop and make edits on your own. Okay. So it eases your life.
Something like Bootstrap used to do.
Yeah. So this is actually essentially it is based on Bootstrap. It is allowing you to do drag and drop and edit.
That's it.
And finally, it compiles it down to basic HTML, which you can anyways edit.
Okay. Wonderful.
So you can use something like that, or any other tool which you like or you know about. Of course, do not use a cracked or a patched software. Use legal software only, or an open source one. So next, what happens is once you have built something like this, using that, you will realize what are the complexity in building something simple as that. Apple's website is also very simple. Yeah, they do have introduced that new feature, and I really find it as an ugly feature as a user. Where you scroll down and it acts like as if it is showing you a video where the device is spinning and coming apart and coming like it's
too much of graphics. I think.
Too much of graphics. Okay, you can skip that part. Okay, you can skip that part. And third is wherever you are living right now, try to search for your local municipal corporation's website.
Cut the point.
I'm not trying to punish you. Those are ideally one of the most ugliest or the most gaudiest looking websites. Okay. Now they are also bound with certain rules because they have to create websites which are readable by everyone. There are certain norms of it, including being able to be read by a disabled person, partially able, vision impaired people,
okay.
Some people who might be colorblind. So that's why their sites look slightly ugly. But the challenge is try to replicate that site. Even 20% of that site. You don't have to replicate all the content. Just create too many of 3 to 4 pages of them and create that. This will teach you a lot. You will realize what did you miss out, what you were too confident about.
Okay.
That's where you should begin.
Okay.
That is how you can actually achieve a very good start with web development. And those who will realize that I am not built for it, I don't have the metal for it, they can quit and they can move into some other domain.
But I generally tell a lot of students who are very creative. See, there are different type of coders. People who are very creative, who can think about UI, who can think about colors, and I feel there are more people who are built for web domain because it requires your understanding of core concept of information flow, data structure, understanding of the entire UI. So people who are more creative, I generally push them for web domain. कि try करो, and that's wonderful. So fine. अभी तक तो ये clear हुआ कि what all things. Suppose give me 3 projects which you should build to understand how good you have become in web projects.
So we'll, as you said, creative students mainly. So for those, you should build a website which is easy to read and appealing to look at, an eye candy website.
Okay, so something like their profile website, they can put up their own
profile website is the very basic thing you could do
to start with.
The very basic thing to do to start with, and make sure you are designing it such a way that you have thought through how it will look on your mobile and on your phone and on
the
your
responsive
tablet. The responsive part. So remember, not just desktop/laptop and your mobile, but if your tab is held in a portrait mode, it might produce a different outcome.
Yeah, we have faced it when during the website.
Yeah. So and you can test this out inside your browser. The DevTools option gives you to look up review for different devices.
Different resolution and
resolution also. Right. You can use that. So do it using that. Try to build this with all the effects that you are giving in should be done only with CSS, not JavaScript.
Okay. Remember this.
Okay. JavaScript should be used only for manipulating the DOM in certain scenarios.
Okay.
Like you need a modal, of course you are going to need a JavaScript call. Okay. You want to make components completely taken out of the document, of course you are going to need JavaScript. Okay. Simple hiding, disappearing, and magic show can be done with CSS.
Okay.
Your animations should be avoided to be done by JavaScript. And do it without using third-party plugins. So even if you are using a free license plugin which is available, which is having MIT license or some open source Git project, avoid using that. Try to build things yourself. If you can't build it, skip that. Build what you can.
Perfect.
Focus on achieving a website. Create a page. No matter how simple and basic it is, fine. Don't just fill it with things.
I agree.
You can benchmark something. Like the example I gave, you can pick Tesla's website. Or you can pick any good.
So basically, a good idea is to build a clone without using any AI help or a crawler.
Correct.
That's a better thing. So first is any website picking up. Sure. So when you see on a lot of websites I have seen, there is a concept of single page website and there is a professional website like we have. So what they should start with single page website and then go to multiple page, or what would be your call?
Yeah. So first recommendation that I have is you should try starting with a single page.
And one more question. I'm very sure by now people might be thinking about WordPress. I remember you scolding the entire technical team about why WordPress. Even I would like you to make a note of that.
So first of all, I'll tell you, this is another pandemic in India that we have. That is called WordPress. And I saw this evolving for the past decade and a half. People got into WordPress because it was just a Google search away, and mostly it was freelancers. It was a Google search away, how to do this and how to do that. It had a good community that was built. WordPress is a CMS, a content management system. And there are other CMSs also. There's Concrete 5, there is PHP Cake, then you have Joomla, which is also a powerful one. So it's like many of these. Now the problem is WordPress was initially, in its name, it's WordPress. It was built for blogging. Okay? It was built as a blog. If you try to use a transformation and additional plugins, third party for it, you are, my friend, inviting trouble for yourself. You will have to keep maintaining it for your lifetime. So with its default features, you can only achieve limited things. Okay. If you modify it, then you're stuck with those modifications forever because WordPress has to be updated every year. It has to go a compulsory upgrade because PHP versions are changing. So WordPress has to catch up to that.
Right.
So it also makes adjustments in the database setup. It uses MySQL in its backend.
So basically, it would be more difficult to manage these updates and all. And again, we are at the risk if some third-party app which you have used and they stop, you're stuck with
which has happened for many people. Some of my old colleagues have faced these problems. They used third-party plugins and they were happy. Their management was happy. They even got awarded in the annual function of the company and all. Next year, that app company disappeared. Who provided the plugin? They shut down. No more support was available. They were fine for another 2 years. Then a WordPress upgrade was due. They had to scrap the entire thing, build everything from scratch. Those of you who are good at building plugins for WordPress may get through with it, but then you are investing a lot of time just for that. Same thing. Now I suffered the same fate with Joomla also. I use Joomla. I use it for a few of my clients, and it served its purpose. I knew where to stop. I knew what not to use it for. I built plugins and modules myself, and I knew how I can upgrade them.
Right.
I created a documentation for it, so I could do that. So avoid that using a CMS now. You need to understand, boss, how that works first. You might end up creating your own CMS, and it's not that difficult at all. If you understand backend programming better, you can create your own CMS. All this is what dynamically generated content. Most of it is stored in the database. Files are stored as an upload. And all of that is put together, stitched together by a program which is just fetching that information from the database and rendering it for you. Instead of statically rendering it from an HTML document, the HTML document is rendered, content is rendered using backend logic. That is what your CMS does. And I think that's a wonderful project if someone is thinking of creating a nice project for their final year.
So we got project also. So basically profile, then copying probably a site which is already existing and seeing whether you can achieve or not. And finally, the highest can be building your own CMS system, which can actually do.
Yeah, and I think you can also have something in the middle that is using a utility website, creating a utility portal, like inventory management. Simple billing, or let's say a system which is accepting orders.
Wonderful.
Okay, and one person is able to get a view who's able to make an order, and the other person is able to view that order. Don't keep the payment option. Just imagine this is an order coming from the waiter to the kitchen. Imagine that. Like if you have seen one of those McDonald's stores on the highway when you go to these.
You give an order, it goes at the back end and you get.
And you can see the chefs and the team inside. They have a screen in front of them, but these little sticky note like windows appear on the screen. It's the result of that.
Perfect.
You can building something similar to that.
Wonderful. So you understand in today's podcast, we actually understood the myths. What are the basic steps? What are the technologies? What are the kind of projects? All related information would again be covered in the description. You guys can connect to us for any queries or something. We'd love to see your comments. So as if for now, we'll stop it and we'll be soon back with yet another important, interesting episode or the podcast. So this is Amar Panchal signing off with Jayesh. Raut. Bye.